Good evening, everyone. Tonight is very special. We've got a great Italian chef, and it's David Lando's 65th birthday today. His wife Joy and his kids have organised a surprise party tonight, but David insisted on being here tonight. I'm not sure if he's still talking to his wife and kids anymore. Anyway, so can we give him a round? And he's open to gifts, cash, anything like that if you want. So happy birthday. Okay.
Happy birthday, David.
Thank you very much.
That was Silvia, wasn't it?
Yes.
Silvia Nacamulli is a London-based cook and well-recognised name on the international food and cooking circuit. Born and bred in Rome, she is an Italian-Jewish cookery expert. She runs La Cucina di Silvia.
Very good.
Cooking for the Soul, where she teaches, writes and caters traditional home cooking. She regularly contributes recipes for the Jewish Chronicle, and she's currently writing her first book, Jewish Flavors of Italy. Tastes lovely, apparently. Silvia loves questions, and that actually improves her food. So please start throwing questions at her but actually throughout the evening. She said she doesn't mind being interrupted.
No,
So
I don't.
please write in the chat box or the electronic hands in the participants area, which is at the bottom right-hand corner. If you wave your hands, we may not see you, so please try and do one of the two things. So over to you, Silvia. Here she is.
Thank you so much, David, and David, happy birthday again. It's a delight to be here this evening, and I'm gonna share with you some ideas of food, of course, for Pesach. A technical thing in the background, just as a background, and if you hear a few click at the back, my hob happened to break tonight, but so I hope it doesn't disturb too much. It's gonna hopefully be fixed by the end of the evening, but otherwise I'm more than happy to reply at any questions. As David said, you can write them in the chat. I don't mind at all to be interrupted halfway through.
Silvia, sorry, you accidentally got muted. Could you just unmute yourself?
Yes, is that better?
Perfect, thanks.
Okay, actually, if you if you can take me off as a co-host, so I don't get all the notification on the front, that would be.
I'll take it off, no problem.
Is that right? Thank you. Okay, so I was saying that I don't mind at all being interrupted halfway through, or kind of sharing your ideas of how to do things, and I will try to keep this as informal as possible. And the reason mostly is because, besides that I'm Italian, so I'm informal as essence of things, I really think that food is really all about sharing. So it's sharing it at the table, sharing with friends, sharing ideas. And being Italian and Jewish, it's a little bit of a double whammy. But for food is concerned, thankfully, it's quite a good combination. When we sit and eat at the table, we already think about what we're going to eat next. So the festival, the Jewish festival, is really at the core of the Jewish calendar. And I'm gonna, the way that I'm gonna run the evening, it's gonna be about an hour. And it's going to be mostly about telling you a bit about my background, a bit about Italian Jewish cuisine, where it comes from. And then, of course, with Pesach coming up, I'll tell you what the traditions are in Italy, what we eat for Seder night, what the different communities in Italy generally have. And I'm going to also show you one or two things. I'm going to make some lemon Amaretti biscuit. And today I was so lucky to find some artichokes. So the most, which the most kind of famous dish at all is the carciofi alla Giudia. I don't know if any of you had the luck or chance to eat any, but it's probably the emblem of Italian Jewish cuisine, okay? And they really are available for a very, very short time. And this is it. This is really these 2 months of like early spring. Some already late January, you may find February, March, and by April, you still find them, but they tend to be already a bit too hairy, and I will tell you all about it. So I was very lucky to be able to buy them. I bought them from Ocado, actually. Rather expensive, but absolutely worth every penny. So I'm going to show you how to peel it, because that's really is one of the things that people are most curious about. So I'm really happy to be able to do that with you. So giving you an introduction about Italian Jews and Italian Jewish cuisine, it really starts from 2000 years ago, but I'm gonna narrow it down to a much shorter, probably 20 minutes or so of history wrapped up really in a nutshell. The Jews came over 2000 years ago. The presence was registered in 200 BC, and then a larger number came after the destruction of the Second Temple, when the Jews were brought to Rome as slaves. And since then, there's been a continuous Jewish presence in Rome and throughout Italy. Now, because they arrived before the split into Ashkenazi and Sephardi, to the surprise of many, we're actually neither. So we have our own minhag. If you go to a synagogue in Rome, probably you can't quite follow fully. You can, of course, you can follow the player, but none of the minhagim sound really familiar. And if you take a prayer book, it really says Lefi minhag italki, following the Italian rituals. Then, so you will think that actually it's neither Ashkenazi or Sephardi, but then probably one of the first questions you may ask now for Pesach is, okay, fine, you're Italian, but what do you eat? Do you eat kidniot? And I would say, yes, we eat rice and kidniot. And therefore you would say, probably, then you're Sephardi. But actually we are not, but we still don't eat kidniot. And that's because really the tradition of not eating kidniot came much later with the Ashkenazi Jews from Eastern Europe. But originally it was not one of the requirements. So all the Sephardi then eat, of course, rice and kidniot, and the Italian Jews are part of that family, and we do eat a much wider variety of food, which I must say it does make life a little bit easier. Now, the Sephardi influence in Italian Jews, it can really be found. And that's mostly because there used to be a very large Jewish community in the south of Italy, especially in Sicily. There were about 40,000 Jews about at a certain point before the beginning of the Spanish Inquisition, in the really up to the 1500, Calabria, Puglia, Sardinia, the area around Naples was a very, very largely populated area populated by Jews. And with the beginning of the Spanish Inquisition, the Jews, of course, were expelled, and they settled in the center and the north of Italy, and others scattered along the Mediterranean and the Ottoman Empire. And when they arrived in Rome, they brought with them their own traditions. And actually, one of the things that they brought with them is really a lot of the use of eating artichokes and aubergines. And they introduced and included in the Italian Jewish cuisine of the center north. Now, going into Pesach, I'm thinking I'm just going to start by showing you the Amaretti, so that by the time it's going to be in the oven, then the time that it's going to cook, I will tell you a little bit more. Now, the reason that I chose this recipe is because it's one of my favorites, and it's something that perhaps you can relate a little bit to, because It may be similar, no, I wouldn't say similar to macaron because there's no coconut, but the idea of having amaretti of almond biscuit of some types. However, here I really like to incorporate the lemon zest, and the lemon is so much part of Italian cooking. You find it, of course, lemons of Capri and the limoncello and all across the Mediterranean. We have, I'm lucky that my parents have a house in the seaside near Rome, and they have trees of lemons, and when they come to fruits, there's like really literally hundreds of them, and we use them in any possible way. My father is very good at making marmalade, so he does lemons and pears, or lemons and oranges, and we use them in cooking, and the skin is so kind of thick and full of flavor and the aromas, and it's really, really wonderful. So for me, lemons, I really use it so much in cooking. Then whenever I can introduce it in a dessert, I do. Okay, so the way that I'm gonna make the amaretti, I'm gonna literally just beat the egg whites very, very firm, and then we're gonna mix some ground almond. Okay, so the quantities, I'm more than happy to send you a recipe separately. You can either email me or email David, and I will send it to you. My email is silvia@cookingforthesoul.com, or if any of you is in social media, I'm Silvia_Nacamulli for Instagram. Okay, so the way we're gonna do, we're gonna mix the dry ingredients on one side, which is, sorry, I'm gonna put the artichokes on one go, and I'm gonna put the ground almonds, same amount of ground almonds, then sugar. Now it's 170 grams, actually here there's 180 because I'm using large eggs, and 180 grams of, it says caster sugar, but I have demerara sugar and it's absolutely fine, okay? So, and the idea is just to mix the two together and mix the lemon zest, okay? So we mix all the three ingredients together, and just, I'm gonna show you, just to mix together. And I also chose a recipe which is really easy, because tonight it is about cooking a little bit, but it's mostly about telling you also about the traditions of Italian Jewish cuisine and Pesach. So I wanted to keep the cooking part as simple as possible. And by the way, if at any stage I speak too fast, apparently I just kind of start, I just start speaking too fast, then please feel free to slow me down and let me know. Okay, I'm gonna add, this is 2 egg whites, and all I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna mix the egg whites until really whipped and firm. Okay, and then I'm gonna combine them together, and then I'm gonna create the amaretti. So it's really, really straightforward. Okay, so that's the egg white. Now it's gonna be a bit of a noise. So for about 30 seconds or so, I'm just not gonna talk, and you can talk amongst each other. Usually do a cookery demonstration, I would just kind of let people speak by themselves, but here I will see you in 30 seconds. So you start slow until like it's got the white peaks, and then you go much faster. Almost there, but not quite. I really want the white to be super, super firm. Okay. So you can see they're really firm. If I turn over the bowl, they stick. Okay. And now what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna simply incorporate the mixture of the sugar with the ground almond and the lemon in here. You can do the other way around. Usually you fold in the egg whites to the mixture. In this case, you do the opposite. At the end, it's not going to be much difference, okay? Because it's going to become quite gluey and kind of sticky. So it's fine. It will, the egg whites, they will lose their fluffiness, okay?
Silvia, sorry, we had a question.
Yeah.
How many egg whites
Yes.
do you use?
Two egg whites. So I have 2 egg whites. And then I have 100, well, the things that usually I would maybe do 2 medium egg whites, but you can do either 2 medium egg whites and 170 grams of sugar and almonds, or you can do 180 of each and have like large eggs. So whichever eggs you happen to have at home, it's really easy to kind of play around, and you will see it's going to become quite sticky. Okay, and it's going to reduce, and I'm going to be able to take it in spoonful and put it in here. Okay, now one of the great things about this Amaretti is the fact that you can do them in advance. Okay, they keep very well, probably in a kind of airtight container. That would be the ideal thing. But it's something that you can do if you are able to kind of. You can do it in Pesach, of course. You can either have them for Seder night or the night after to have something a little bit lighter, perhaps at the end of a very long lasting meal. Usually, I'll tell you now what we usually have for Seder night in Italy. But by the end, you probably just kind of you have a variety of dessert, and this one really stays quite light. Okay, so you can see it's like a nice big blob somehow. Okay, so you have 2 options. Usually I tend to work with a spoon, with a teaspoon and I like the fact that I will get the shapes that are not kind of a perfect cut. So I'm just taking a oven dish, yeah, and you can just take a teaspoon or so, and you can put them next to each other. Okay, you could, I have clean hands, I promise, that I just washed them before. If you so quite precise and you like nice round things or more kind of shapes, then you can make little balls like this. Now it's interesting because there is a recipe of pistachio and lemon amaretti, which is slightly different from this, that I actually unpacked because as David did a lovely introduction on me, thank you. I write for the Jewish Chronicle. I've been writing for the Jewish Chronicle since 2007, so quite a while. And by the way, I have been here for over 22 years. I was saying earlier, before we connected, that my accent somehow it gets stronger by the time. I'm not sure why, but I have been here for quite some time. And I'm gonna do a recipe that is coming out, I think on the Friday, really just before Pesach. This is the last one I'm gonna do with my hands. The rest I'm gonna move actually with the spoon. That I'm gonna make some pistachio and lemon amaretti. And it's gonna be really nice because I do them rolled up, and then I coat them in a little bit of icing sugar before putting them in the oven, so that in that case they will become a little bit crunchy. Now, just one thing, David, I can't read when people write because the phone is too far away. So if anyone has got any question, then please do read out to me.
There's no other questions at the moment. Someone just asked for the recipe. I just put your email address and website.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. So I'm gonna just repeat what I'm doing and giving you the recipe now as well. I'm more than happy to send it to you. So what I'm doing, this is two egg whites and 180 grams of ground almond. And you can, of course, change it. You can use hazelnut. You can change any kind of nuts. You can even do a mix of different nuts. 180 grams of sugar. It can be caster sugar. In this case, I'm using the Merara sugar, but by all means, you can definitely use a mix of sugar as well. And the zest of 2 lemons in this case, because I really like kind of the lemony flavors. If you do want just a little zest, then 1 lemon is going to be enough. Okay, so you can really play, and you can see 2 egg whites. They give quite a lot of Amaretti, about 25 or something like that. So if you want less, you can even just do 1 egg white, especially if you do it with the handheld machine. You see that you can get still quite a lot out of 1. Okay, so I personally like the quite irregular shape, but you can be precise and do them like that. The oven is set at 170 degrees, and they're gonna take maybe 15 minutes to cook, so not that long. Okay, and at the end, I'm gonna show you. I'm going to I will do it now. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna do those. I'm gonna do 1 tray. I think it's gonna be enough. This can keep very well for later, and you can decorate the top of each. So this is how they look at the moment. I can just put them slightly more together.
Sorry, Silvia,
Okay.
there was another question.
Yeah.
How many ground almonds?
It's 180 grams.
Thanks.
So the amount of sugar and the almonds is the same. So it's great because you can really play with the quantities very easily. So if you were gonna do just 1 egg white, okay? So if you were gonna do just 1 egg white, you just would do 90 grams of sugar and 90 grams of almonds, and that would work. Now you can decorate the top. You can leave them like this, okay? Or you can decorate the top by these are flaked almonds. You can put a couple like this on top. So we can do one row. And being an Amaretti with almonds, then the almonds is the most kind of natural solution for that. But I like to actually mix a different kind of nuts. And by the way, the Amaretti, usually it's Amaro means bitter, okay? So Amaretti is because usually you would put some Amaretti biscuit, you would put like una mandorla amara, a bitter almond, which is not that easy to find here in England. But in Italy, somehow it's much more approachable, and any kind of almost food store would have just like a handful, because of course you need just 1 or 2 bitter almond, and they change completely the flavor of whatever you're using it. It's mostly used for biscuits, but not only. Okay, so these are pistachios. Another things that I like to use is pine nuts as well. I think they go quite nicely on top. And so I'm going to put a couple of those. And then, oops, that's pistachio. And then I quite like almonds. You can put walnuts, of course. Ooh, this one's left without. You can put hazelnuts. Okay, so this one we do it with almonds, and this one I'm going to leave it plain. Okay, so you can have. So can you see? So they're all kind of flying around, decorated. I'm going to put it in the oven at 170 degrees. I'm going to hear. Here you can probably hear my tick tick. Here you go. And I'm going to see in 12 minutes how things are doing. Okay. Any question on the Amaretti? You good?
No more questions at the moment, but if anyone wants to make a question or put a hand up, now's your chance.
Okay. Yes, please do. Otherwise, I'll tell you a
Silvia,
little bit about.
One other thing. You said you wrote for the Jewish Chronicle. In fact, this time last year in our Shul magazine, you had a recipe in the
did. Do you know which recipe I got? Which recipe was that?
No, I was just looking. I was just looking for the magazine. I know it was in there, but I can't remember the recipe. I'm not good with recipes.
Okay. Yes, I contribute to a really a lot of energy. And actually, a few years ago, I came in person and did a cookie demonstration at the shul, but it's quite a while back. So hopefully, maybe once things open up again, we can resume face to face. Because what I really enjoy the most, of course, is the meeting with people and being able to cook something, demonstrate it, and then share it and feed it with everyone else.
Sorry, we've had one more question just come in. Can you suggest an alternative for people who can't have so much sugar?
Yes, you can definitely. Yes, I don't know the quantities, so you could use like a sugar substitute, but then you will have to look up what will be the kind of amount of whatever alternative you use than 180 grams of sugar. So so perhaps that would be the best way. Or if you can still have a little bit of sugar, just not that much, then just make less and have one. Perhaps it's I would say less, but the real thing it's perhaps better than a lot with a lot of substitute things. So I'm not sure that helps.
Right, but, I've got two hands up. So David Oliver's one and Gwendolyn.
Yeah,
I'll go with Gwendolyn first, and then we'll go to David. So Gwendolyn, your line, you should unmute yourself.
Yeah, I just want to tell you that what is 170 degrees Fahrenheit? Some of us have only got gas cookers, and 170 means nothing to me. So what's that in gas, please? And please, would you give me the gas equivalent, please? Because a few of us have only got gas cookers. Yeah.
Yes, so 170, it's about 4.5.
4.
Yes. It's something between 4 and 5, but I would always say yes, 4. 4 it's let's say safer for sure. And it's better in this case with the biscuits that they cook at a slower temperature for longer than to put them too high. So at the gas mark 4 would work well.
Thank you.
Oh, my welcome.
Okay, thank you, Gwendolyn. Right, I'll just unmute David.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I've actually, my wife just sent me a question.
Yes.
She makes things very much like the ones that you made for Pesach, and she said she puts a lot less sugar in it. This has nothing to do with me.
Yes. So yes, and you can definitely do it with. You can definitely play it with less sugar, and if it works, then it's fine. The thing is that you do kind of, you kind of need the almonds definitely, or the nuts to create that kind of consistency. It's a sweet, so it tends to be sweet. But by all means, if you prefer to have it with less sugar, then absolutely you can use like probably I wouldn't half it. Let's say I would probably make 120, maybe reduce it of a third of sugar. That should be fine. Yeah. Like a third less sugar.
Oh, that's quite a lot, though, isn't it?
That's quite a lot, yes.
Yeah. Well, a third of sugar is a lot of sugar, isn't it?
It is. But so I would prefer to keep it full. But if you find it too sweet, then it can be reduced.
Right, can I ask you about something totally different?
Yes, of course.
My mum made the best chorosis in the world that I've ever eaten. Right?
Yes.
And my wife now does the same thing. It's fantastic. But are there lots of other recipes? Have you got anything special?
Yes, that's a very good question. So charoset is one of those things that probably is kind of as many charoset as the Jewish families. The Roman Jews, the Italian Jews, they will really put quite a lot of ingredients in our charoset. So I do one also in our, for example, when we celebrate Pesach, usually we go to Rome. So this is going to be the second year, unfortunately, that we're not able to go. But we usually host it at my parents' house. where we have large tables of like more than like 40 close family members, and we have a Seder night there. And between us, we bring 3 charoset, okay? Just to show, so although it's one family, we still need to have 3 different charoset because there's still 3 families at least within one. So the charoset so there is the charoset that I make, there is the charoset that my sister-in-law makes, and the charoset that my cousin makes. The one that my cousin makes has a bit of cocoa. Of course, the common denominator are the apples and nuts. Then the Italian Jews tend to put a lot of oranges in it, and especially because it's the season of the blood oranges, we put the blood orange juice in it. Then a bit of cinnamon, just a touch of cinnamon. I think a common denominator is a bit of red wine. We all put a bit of red wine, which eventually you do feel it when you eat it because it's not cooked, so it stays there. So the kids just stop eating it. It's quite a funny scene, actually. So my cousin, she puts a little bit of cocoa in it, a bit of chocolate. While my sister, it puts a little bit of banana in it, which is quite unusual. But because my other cousin doesn't like banana, so my sister-in-law makes one without cocoa, without banana, much more simple. And I add dates into mine. So I have apples and dates and orange juice. I have put no sugar at all in there, so that would be a good one for someone who's looking for less kind of granulated sugar, and if natural sugar are right, of course. And then I put red wine, and I used to put a bit of Marsala wine, but a bit less now, and almonds, and it's really, really nice. I think actually in the Jewish Chronicles there is my recipe of charoset, or if anyone would like to add another recipe of your repertoire, then I'm more than happy to share my charoset recipe. I even thought.
Sorry to interrupt. Someone just asked if there's got a nut allergy, is there anything they can use instead?
Yes, that's a tricky one for Pesach altogether. I think kind of. You would just yes, you can just use the almond. Sorry, just use the apples and dates. The dates, they kind of help kind of glue things together a bit. If you like coconut, then you could add a bit of coconut flour, which will help us to kind of bind things together a little bit. Because of course, the idea of the seder and the charoset is to kind of bind and attach, you know, like the bricks. So you do need it to have it of that consistency. If you work it on a food processor, it can help to make it a little bit more gluey. But coconut, it could be a good alternative to nuts. Yeah. Now, talking of the Seder plate, the Roman Jews in particular, and there's going to be a little bit of a bias of Roman in this talk, because being from there and being the most important, somehow the largest Jewish community in Italy today, instead of having a Seder plate with nice already compartmental divisions on the plate, we have a basket. Okay, so we have a basket, and usually there is a cloth, can be like just a napkin, or there are some that are specifically for the Seder basket that we keep aside and use just for that. And the bitter herb, we use celery, and for the no, the bitter herb, we use the lattuga, come si chiama? It's lettuce, yes, baby lettuce, so it's not bitter at all. And then we use the celery, and then we have an egg, we have the charoset, we have, of course, the shank bone, and it's all very kind of abundant coming out from the basket. Okay, so that is also something that is slightly different. We do have menus that really they could tend to repeat itself, and it's really wonderful, wonderful food. One of the things is the carciofi, and I'm going to show you shortly how to peel it. I'm not going to cook it in front of you, but I'm going to show you how to peel the artichoke. Being, as I said, the emblem of Roman Jewish cuisine, there's almost no Seder night on a Roman Jewish table without the carciofi alla Judea. Although they're much better eaten and like kind of made, fried, and eaten straight away, we very happily compromise with cold carciofi alla Judea, because of course they're made before Seder start. Then being within the Sephardi umbrella of eating the kidneyot, we eat rice as a first course. And usually the most common dish that we would always have, and any other family that I know would have, is pomodori col riso, which are stuffed tomatoes with rice and tomato, and they're baked in the oven. And they are really great because they really are great eaten warm or eaten cold, or they'll keep well for the next day or for 2 days later. And one of the things that you do for Passover in Rome, perhaps because the weather starts to be so nice and the spring is springing really, it tends to do a lot of picnics. And that perhaps is also being a Jew in Italy. You are what I call sometimes a Catholic Jews, which are Jews that really lived throughout the centuries within the Catholic religion. I'm going to look at the Amaretti, excuse me. I think they may need a few extra minutes. Maybe just actually a couple, actually. No, oh, they smell very nice. Okay, I put 3 more minutes. So about that. So in 3 more minutes, I'm going to take it out. I think it's probably going to be fine by then. I was talking about the picnics, the fact of usually the Catholics in Italy at the time of Easter, they would just do picnics for Easter, for the day after Easter. And I think that being a similar time, the Italian Jews probably just got the lovely idea of the picnic, and we do a lot of picnics during the days of Chag, of Pesach. And one of the things that you would bring is any kind of leftovers of the pomodori con riso, or another thing that we would bring is a frittata of onion and tomatoes that then we would cut in square and share with others. Or the Amaretti biscuits, they would go very well for a picnic as kind of little bites. And one of the way that we call the Pesach in Italy, we call it La Pasqua Ebraica, so the Jewish Easter, okay? So that again is the connotation of being kind of a Jew in a Catholic country. You kind of refer to the main holiday at the time, which is the Easter, and to make the outside world understand what it is. It's like it is just like an Easter, but for the Jews, which is not quite, but just so you can understand the context. Now going back to Seder night, the menu also, which is quite different from the Ashkenazi, is the wheat lamb. And wheat lamb, especially because of the korban of a Pesach. So because it was sacrificato, my Italian, sacrificated in the Bet HaMikdash, that's why we eat the lamb. And the Ashkenazi Jews, they do not eat the lamb, especially because it reminds of the sacrifice and in the Bet HaMikdash. So for the same reason, but for opposite way of interpreting this, we eat lamb, especially on Seder night, and the Ashkenazi do not eat Seder lamb, especially on Seder night. Okay, then we would have like a varieties of side vegetables. And another thing that we would have would be cold cuts of meat. Now the Italian Jewish cuisine it's been really created throughout 2000 years. So it's very Italian. I'm gonna check the Amaretti, excuse me. Yeah, they're done. Okay, so they're a bit hot, but can you see? They smell super nice. Oh, I'm gonna put them here to cool down, and then we can transfer them into a plate. Okay, so I was saying that the Italian Jewish cuisine, it's really been inspired by it's been created alongside the Italian cuisine, has developed with them, as introduced, like Italian cuisine and has introduced tomatoes and peppers and corns after the discovery of Americas. The same happened with the Italian Jewish cuisine, okay, because they both kind of adopted it at the same time. Aubergines, they have a wider variety, a wider tradition of eating it, and artichokes also has been almost more seen as Jewish food than others have. However, it's really the essence of the flavors is very much Italian. So if you would go to eat in a kosher restaurant at the ghetto, and you would look for like kugel, or you could look for gefilte fish, you would be unfortunately disappointed, or perhaps pleasantly surprised. I don't know, but the food that really the Roman Jews eat is Italian food, but kosher. Okay, so the kosher rules are, of course, the fundamental pillar of the cuisine, and the community, Jewish community in Rome, is an Orthodox community. Orthodox, perhaps a bit more by name than facts, in a way that although with the Orthodox there is no other denominations, but that doesn't make that the entirety of the Jewish community is Orthodox. However, the rules, and there is one community only, and there is the chief rabbi, and the rules really apply. So the Jews, they were inspired by the Italian cuisine, and they changed it in order to conform to kosher rules. And in the process, they created new and original recipes. Okay, so for Pesach, the idea is to really create, for example, instead of the lasagna made of pasta, you would create like a lasagna using matzah. Of course, now with globalization of food, it's much more common to find all these things everywhere. But the Italians have been doing, the Jews of Venice, they've been making like a dish called scacchi, which is really layers like lasagna of meat and vegetables, and for like centuries. And the cold cuts of meat that are so popular in Italy, usually using pork. The Roman Jews, they were inspired by the pork cuts of meat, and they used beef to make it. So now you're probably familiar with bresaola, you might have heard. That of course, that in that case can be both kosher or no kosher, but the Roman Jews, they create a lot of cold cuts of salami and prosciutti even, and we eat a lot of them during Passover for Seder night. So we do the Seder, and then when it's time to eat, just after we eat the egg, there is a round of cold cuts of meat, and together with the egg. That's before we actually start eating anything hot, and that's really common everywhere. So you can have salami now. You can have, you find probably turkey salami or chicken salami or things like this. But in Rome, there are beautiful cold cuts of beef, which are amazing. And in the north, there was a very strong tradition of eating goose. And cold cuts of goose, which now it's more rare to find it, and quite difficult to find it kosher. However, the cold cuts of goose, they're very much part of the tradition of Venice, of Piedmont, of Mantova, Ferrara, and all the area of Lombardy, Emilia-Romagna, Veneto, and Piedmont. So on Saturday night, we would have the cold cuts, then we would have the rice, then we would have the lamb, roasted usually with roast potatoes, delicious, really delicious, and carciofi alla giudia, and then a couple of side vegetable dishes. There may be the occasional other rice that someone else makes, but my mom tends to cook for everyone. I got my cooking spirit from her, definitely. And then for dessert, we would have a variety of things. So Amaretti could be one of them. There could be like I like to make, I actually make every year, I make a carrot and almond cake, which is really nice, and there's no icing in the Italian version of it. We make sometimes actually even a chocolate mousse. It goes super well. And then the most traditional perhaps dish of Roman Jewish cuisine is what they're called pizzarelle col miele. Now the pizzarelle col miele are some matzah fritters. So we soak the pizza in water, just regular Israeli matzah, and then we do a mix of egg, sugar, pine nuts. Now pine nuts, we eat them again. Some Ashkenazi don't eat the pine nuts, so you can leave those out. Also on the Amaretti, by the way, if you rather not use the pine nuts. Raisin, we put orange zest, not grated, but in small pieces. Then some people put nuts, but I don't think somehow I need it. And then we mix the matzah with it, and we make little frittelle, like little fritters. So some people say, oh yeah, it's like matzah brai. It's not quite the same, but it is perhaps, of course, the similar idea of having kind of matzah with egg, then eventually fried. Okay, so perhaps if you want to see the wider picture of things, yes. However, the flavor is quite something else. And we fry them, and then we dip them in honey, and they're really, really, really nice. Okay, and that's perhaps is the most famous dish. And now, one thing which is quite interesting is the fact that for hundreds of years, especially at the time of the ghettos. So ghettos that were established in Venice initially, and in 1516, and they really lasted for over 300 years. So in Rome, the ghetto was in 1555, and it was demolished, was literally actually demolished a few years later, but abolished in 1870, after the unification of Italy. So it's 300 years, and somehow it's been a, of course, horrible living conditions, very poor, very cramped, but it helped in the survival of the Jewish identity by Jews being kept together, and the food was very much a common denominator. And there were different laws, both in Rome and Emilia-Romagna, and in the north of the Pope, because Italy was a conglomerate of independent states that were really ruled by the Catholic Church, okay, and sometimes by different families. But the church really overview and control them in different ways. And one of the continuous fight was the never-ending attempt to convert the Jews into Christianity, and there was this attempt to really keep the two separate, with the ghetto, of course, and also food was seen as kind of a way to be able to contaminate your soul, perhaps. But at the time of Pesach, that the Jews were making their own adzme, their own matzo, Catholics, they were not allowed to go and eat those matzos. And the reason for it is because they were very, very popular. So they used to do matzah for the weekdays, so the regular matzah, thin. Then they used to do the shmuhot, the one for the Seder night. And then they used to make some sweet matzah for special occasion or for dessert. And those in particular, it was really, they were really liked by the Jewish community within, and people were coming from outside of the ghetto into the ghetto to eat it. And so because it became so popular, eventually they started making a law that they were not allowed to go in the ghetto to eat the matzah. However, then kind of as often is the case, like a black market of matzah kind of spread and people were able to somehow enjoy them anyway. But so it's quite interesting how the food is really seen again as one of those symbol of identity, I think, most of all, and tradition and all that. Now, as we go in the center north, so in Venice, there was more of an Ashkenazi influence in Jewish cooking, because the ghetto itself was divided into an Ashkenazi side, a Sephardi, a Levantine, an Italian, and there were different areas of the ghettos and they each lived in them, and there were different synagogues, of course, with a different ritual, and that happened in Rome, by the way, as well, but not in the same degree, and there were no Ashkenazi then. And for the food, it had much more of an Ashkenazi influence in absolute terms, okay? And you had more kind of, even in the words of certain dishes, like the griboli, that is like for griben from the German and the Yiddish, of like little piece of goose fat that was kind of fried and then put inside some focaccia, for example. So you have again a marriage of Italian focaccia and the griben inside, and you would have something which apparently was really delicious, which is not quite made anymore. For Pesach, we had the skaki, which is what I mentioned earlier, and we have also a soup called the griboli in brodo, which are really little matzah cubes that are baked in the oven and then cooked inside the in a chicken or beef or some kind of meat broth, and they're eaten for Seder night. Okay, and the matzah in this case again is mixed with the eggs, but there is a bit of nutmeg, there is a bit of herbs, so it's made a bit more Mediterranean in flavor. Otherwise, in the you have zuccherini, you have the, actually that's more in Piedmont. In Venezia, you have the bisse or the apere, which are some desserts, especially biscuit. The bisse, they're on a shape of an S, and the apere, they're kind of round. And they're all quite simple biscuits, which both in Venice and in Rome, they are actually made with flour. And that's one last interesting point that I'm going to give before I'm going to show you with the grand finale of the carciofo, is the fact of using flour. Now, of course, flour is not kosher for Passover when used during Pesach, but if you think of the matzah, it is indeed flour and water. Just doesn't needs to cook not for longer than 18 minutes. There are very strict laws, and for that you have other sources much more accurate than myself. However, for the biscuits, there is a tradition, and there's been a tradition for really hundreds of years of making biscuits before Pesach, and everything, of course, that you would do with flour, even in the matzot, they need to be done before Pesach. Okay, so during the Pesach, there is no trace, of course, of flour. And in my home, the house goes really upside down with the cleaning. It becomes really incredible. My mom, when we go there, she's incredibly thorough. We change our china, we change everything, all the pots and the pans and things. It's incredible. So kasherut is really important. Okay, but traditions are also very important. Okay, and there is this. They used to sell kosher for Passover flour, and that's up until 2013 when there's been a kind of an internal rebellion within the Roman community of a decision of the rabbinate saying that they would not allow people to buy kosher for Passover flour because and use it in their own home because they may not know how to use it correctly and perhaps take longer to make the ciambellette. These are the kind of the most famous dessert in Rome. The ciambelletto, ginetti, that's what we do in our home. And therefore, they prefer to ban the use of the kosher for Passover flour and sell it in the store. However, if you would go to Rome during Passover and you would go to the bakery, they would sell biscuit made with kosher for Passover flour, because of course the fact of kosher for Passover, it's a flour that has not been exposed to any humidity or wet at all. It's dry. Okay, so the interesting thing is that the Roman Jews said, what do you mean we can't do the ciambellette or the ginetti, which have been made them for hundreds of years, and these are traditional, which is just eggs, flour, sugar. The one we made my family, we put a bit of orange zest and some cinnamon and a few nuts. Okay, and I remember baking until late at night with my mom the night before Pesach. So everything needs to be super clean at home. There doesn't need to be any trace of flour. And then we open the kosher for Passover flour on a board that she uses just for Pesach, and makes a mixture there and then. And we look at the clock all the time to make sure that we do this super quickly in the oven. And then we have the ginetti and the biscuit for throughout the week. Now, this tradition was somehow removed from a home, because was not able to buy the flour anymore. However, what the Roman Jews did, they agreed to have a communal oven. So basically we went back in time. So there is a Jewish community in Rome with a rabbi and a supervisor, making sure, using the kosher for Passover flour, and making sure that, and you can rent a slot of like, I don't know, 2 hours per family. And you can go there with your own recipe. Of course, everything needs to be kosher. And you can be supervised and making sure that you can make your own ciambelline and your own ginetti using the flour, but under supervision. So everyone then can still make their own biscuit and their own ciambelline for Pesach. Which I think is actually wonderful, because it really made us keep this tradition alive, and we use it in a kosher way, making sure that everything happens before and everything is under the rule. So this is, I think, something quite interesting that I don't know any other community which has this quite tradition. And I don't know if you want to ask any question, you're very welcome. And I'm gonna just show you the way that we peel the artichokes, if you are interested in it. But if you have any question, please go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I've got a couple of things actually. One of them is, which I'm quite shocked at actually. My wife and her, her chorosia, so secret chorosia. She wanted me to give you her.
Yes, please.
Right.
Oh, now, I would love to know.
I can't promise that she hasn't left anything out.
Okay, please do.
What she sent to me is grated apple, chopped hazelnuts, chopped almonds, Kiddush wine, Kiddush sweet kosher wine, sugar and cinnamon. But I think there's other bits in there as well.
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds very similar. So yes, actually, mine, I also put the hazelnut in there. So I do a mix of hazelnut and almonds, and I put a bit of Kiddush wine and a bit of red wine, some orange juice. Oh. But yes, thank you for sharing the recipe. If anyone else wants to share their charoset recipe, please do, because I'm always very interested to hear what people are doing, and if they have any other kind of way of doing it, or if anyone would like my recipe, you can email me, or you can look it up on the Jewish. If you Google Jewish Chronicle Silvia Nacamulli charoset, I think you may get a couple of the recipes.
Well, I can tell you, we never ever have any charoset left.
No, I know. Yes.
I mean, it's gone. It's gone. I do.
Oh no, it sounds delicious.
It is. The other thing is, we all have. I think we all have our grandmother's recipes, our bubbas, and we bring them down from my parents and so on and so on. Have you got anything like that?
Yes, yes, that's a good question. I'll reply to that in a second. But also about the charoset, And I always say, you know, like if anyone wants to try macharosas, they're very welcome. However, I always say if you do have a recipe that comes from your family or comes from your grandmother or mother or anything, then do keep it, you know, maybe put more than one charoset at the table like we do, but do keep the traditions alive, because it's once a year, and it's really wonderful to keep those recipe going. So you can enrich with other one, but don't replace yours. Okay, so that would be my suggestion. Now my grandmothers, they both cooked quite well, although one cooked a little bit better than the other one. Nonna Bianca, I have twin daughters, one 9 years old, and they were both called after one after my late grandmother and one after my husband's late grandmother. So Nonna Bianca, which was my mom's mom, she used to cook really, really well. We used to do Thursday night lunches at hers with my cousins, and there's a few recipes. One is a cake which is not for Pesach, which is a lemon sponge. But for example, her pomodori con riso, which is the stuffed tomatoes with rice, they were absolutely fabulous. And that's not something that we just do for Pesach. That is something Pesach somehow opens the season for pomodori con riso, because pomodori con riso is something that we have during the late spring and in summer. If you would go for a lunch in the al fresco, pomodori con riso would definitely be there. Or if you go to the beach and you want to bring your own food, you would bring somehow pomodori con riso, funnily enough. So that's from Nonna Bianca. And Nonna Emma, which is my late grandmother from my mom's side, we used to do Friday nights at hers when I grew up, and she used to make every Friday night a frittata di spaghetti, like a frittata of with spaghetti and tomato sauce, which was really, really nice. And actually interesting for Pesach, her mom, who funnily enough was called Silvia, so Nonna Silvia we called her, was my great grandmother. She used to make a frittata of potatoes, but sweet. And we used to eat it at lunch on the day of Pesach before Seder night. So at the time that you can't eat any bread, you can't eat any matzah. So for that lunch, just before Pesach, we always have for lunch this frittata with potatoes, and we put a little bit of cinnamon in it, and it's slow cooked, and we have it just once a year. So that's also, and it's a tradition of our family. I'm not so sure how spread of a tradition that is otherwise.
Okay. I think, Phil, you have some questions.
Yeah, so there was a comment from Evelyn. Her late husband was from Libya, but of Italian background, yes, and had many of the things that you've been talking about, very similar customs, including his family would not eat chicken, but only lamb. So just yeah.
Yes, a lot of Sephardi, yeah, a lot of Sephardi do as well. Sorry, go on.
And then we also had a question from Patricia. What about zucchini during Pesach?
What about?
Zucchini.
Zucchini?
Yes, zucchini.
Zucchini, okay, courgettes. So I'm not sure. I haven't heard of zucchini having a specific role for Pesach. It's more of a late spring, summer vegetable generally, but we can find it also earlier on. But in Italy, vegetables are much more kind of really seasonal. Okay, so you can find that, yeah, definitely you would find them in the spring. But in my family, we can have maybe as a side dish courgettes or zucchini. In Roman Jewish cuisine, there is the courgette flowers, but that's not necessarily a Pesach thing, because you would kind of put flour and then fry them and stuff them with mozzarella, anchovies, or ricotta, or whatever. But so I don't know of any specific tradition of zucchini for Pesach. But if she does, then please do share it, because I'm always interested to hear other tradition of eating specific food.
I just wonder,
Yeah.
I don't expect an answer from you on this, but you have the best weather and you have the best food there. Why would you be here?
Well, this is well, it's funny actually, but this is, you see what I do, I am kind of clinging on the food with my work. No, I really love being here. I've been here for 24 years. London has been very kind to me, and I love to be in such an international multicultural society. So by all means, I have no regrets about my move. And my family is only in Rome, and I used to, pre-pandemic, be able to go really easily and often. And we still manage, even during the pandemic, to go for 3 weeks in Italy over the summer and spend the summer at the seaside. And we used to be going for Pesach or for weekends here and there. So actually, I think Italy, the best way to be in Italy is to live abroad and go there on holiday and spend and eat and whatever as much as you can, but in small bites.
I've
I
always
think
enjoyed
a better
Italy.
function in society somehow.
I've always enjoyed Italy. I've loved Rome, the Amalfi Coast, anywhere along down there. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Just going to say that my father used to make charoses. I make charoses and have done through 35 years of marriage as of next week. And but it's a really simple recipe. It's ground almonds, it's Kiddish wine, cinnamon, and grated apple. And it's as simple as that. No other additives, no sugar, nothing. And it's perfectly sweet enough. That's the same recipe that my father, from when I was born and prior to that. So that's a recipe in our family for tens of years, if not 100 years.
That's fantastic. So keep it going by all means. I think that's really fantastic. And yeah. So
the only thing I've never learned to do is to grate the apple without cutting my fingers.
It's very tasty, isn't it?
Yes, no, but there is something about the grating of the apples, which really, but no, I think it's important to keep whatever recipes you do for the holidays, whichever the holiday, then cherish those, because that's what, this is why I do what I do now. It's really to keep alive traditions, to keep alive cooking, to keep alive stories, and food is one of the things that lasts longer, that dies. And the smells, and it really kind of stays with you for quite some time. So I think it's really nice to have that opportunity to share and to keep the recipes. You want to see how I do a carciofo? And so I'm gonna show you. Just because I think it's slightly unusual. I don't know how many of you guys make carciofo. So I'm wearing gloves because the carciofo really tends to dye your hands quite a lot. It's like a bit like aubergine, but actually much more. So the carciofo, it's a flower, okay? It's a beautiful flower. Inside there is this purple flower that if you leave it to dry, eventually it's gonna bloom. But this type of carciofo, you see the leaf has got a bit of a curve. There's no pointy leaf as such. And it's called mammola if you buy it here, or it's called carciofo romanesco. Now the cimarolo, it's actually the one that you want for carciofo alla Judea, but we don't get it here, which is the cima, which is the first one that comes on the middle of the bush of the flowers, okay, and those are the best one, but those are quite rare to find over here. You would get them in Italy. Now you would go to the market, Mercato Trionfale, Roma, Mercato, any other, Pistachio, whatever, you would find right now so many artichokes. You may find for 80p or a pound of artichokes, that would be a fair price. This one I paid almost £3 for one artichoke, but I got it, so it's fine, and it's worth it. But it's you see, so you remove any kind of part of leaves, and for the carciofo alla Judea, you need these artichokes, meaning this unfortunately there is no way around. You can use perhaps kind of some of the French ones, or some of the Egyptian ones, but they do tend to have a bit of hair inside. Now you see, I remove it until I find the white part of the artichokes. Now the stem, it's really tasty, but the outer part is quite hard. So what I'm doing, I'm just cutting, and you can see there is, can you see it's inside is white and on the side is green. So you just cut off the edges, just where the green part is, okay, just like that. And all around, and also this part here. So you see, I'm just kind of trimming the edges, because the idea of the carciofola giudia, which is the carciofo that we're gonna, this I'm trimming for it, although you can also do it alla romana for this, which is stewed and is delicious, is that you eat every part of the artichokes. Now, it oxidates quite fast. So the important thing is to have a lemon handy and to smear the lemon all around the part that you just trimmed, okay? This is what it is, how it looks like, okay? Now the trick is then, for example, you see, can you see my knife? This is it's called the spilucchino, and it's, I have two, the blade is on the inside, okay? And I'm gonna use just one, actually the other one very bad, and the idea is to put the blade behind, and you cut on a circular way, still vertical, okay? So I'm not cutting with the knife inside like this, but the knife has got just enough, can you see? And I'm cutting the hard part of the top of each of the leaf, okay? Because the color part is hard, and you see what I'm doing? And the idea is I'm doing it in a spiral way, so that at the end it's going to look like a closed rose, okay? So from a flower of an artichoke, we're going to move to the flower of the rose. You see, I'm just removing, there is a lot of leaves that get removed and thrown away, but it's absolutely worth it, because you want to be able to eat all the bits of the artichoke, okay? And this is how it looks once it's peeled. And this way of peeling the artichokes is really a Roman Jewish way, because we eat the carciofola giudia, they're whole, and we want to make sure that we use these artichokes and they're inside. Actually, you know what? So the carciofola giudia, I would fry it whole like this, just with salt and pepper, and let it fry quite slowly at the bottom. And then eventually you take it out, you leave it to cool down, you open the leaves, and you fry again. And at the end, it looks like an open sunflower, okay? So we went from an apricot to a rose to a sunflower. It really is like poetry, I think. And it tastes even better. Like, I think there's an author called Joyce Goldstein, and she wrote a book about Italian Jewish cuisine. It says, the first time you eat this artichoke, it's so good you want to cry. Which I think there is something about it, but I think there is something definitely worth going to Rome to eat these artichokes if you haven't had the chance. Or now you can get the artichokes and you can see how to peel them. And you can try it yourself, okay? However, it is something that you do need a little bit of practice. It's not one of the hardest, one of the easiest thing to learn. Now, to the carciofola giudia, we would do it whole. Now, I'm gonna cut this one in half, just because I'm gonna probably cook those tomorrow alla romana or in tegame, which are just on a stove. You see, they're very tender. That's really part of the magic thing about these artichokes. So globe artichokes wouldn't work. Those are great to boiling and to eat on its own, but they've got too much stuff. Now, can you see inside? I don't know if you can see. I'm going to reduce actually the light a little bit. Hold on. Yeah, I don't know if you can see inside. There is not that much hair. Okay, the hair is really important, because when you eat the carciofola, so, and if you are cooking it alla romana, then you would remove, this is all the hair that is there, you would remove it and cook it without, okay? And then again, you just smear it, and you would put it in a bowl, with cold water, okay? And you just cold water and lemon. So this lemon, here you go, you leave it there. And you would do them all and then you would cook them. Yeah. And now really and if you would go to a market in Italy, in Rome, now they're really learning the Romans to peel the artichokes more like this. But some of them you would take them and you will find them cut just like that, without the outer leaves, and then just a clean half cut. For me, that is to kind of kill an artichoke, because you would have hard bits of the leaves, of the inner leaves, because they're different kind of size. So the best way to cook it is really in this spiral way, so you get rid of all the hard bits of the artichokes. Now I wanted to know if you have any question, because I know I kind of ran over time a little bit. So by all means, if you have any question, please do ask.
I've just got one thing. But I was brought up with my cousin Faye's out there somewhere, and she's just sent me this thing, and she says, I remember our Bubba. Hold on, sorry, I lost it again. I remember our Bubba making flavor. Does that mean anything to you?
Making
flavor.
Flavor?
Yeah.
No, you mean flavor cake, I would imagine.
Flavor cake. I remember my grandma making it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe it's a bit English. And she said she was beating and beating and beating by hand. And if God forbid we ever opened the kitchen door, she went berserk. She took over the kitchen, and she would not allow. I mean, obviously, I'm going back quite a few years when ovens weren't like they are now. But they, unfortunately, my wife is a very, very good cook. I think so, anyway. And
that's good.
She's never been able to emulate this flavor. So I think it's
the emulation of flavor. It's an interesting one, actually. But I'm not familiar with it. But perhaps yes, or at least in Rome there's no. But I'm sorry, I'm not familiar quite with the dish. But yes, if you can emulate all flavors, I think that's kind of is the I don't know if you've seen the film of Ratatouille, like the critic that kind of tastes the ratatouille and is brought back to this field of childhood and the flavor of his mother's food. So this is what I try to do on a daily basis. Or the name of my business is Cooking for the Soul. That's what I try to kind of touch somehow, like through the smell or through the stories or through the food. This is what I try to do. Now I am writing this book of Italian Jewish cuisine, which I hope by the end of the year will be available. I will let you know once it has, and we'll have all of those stories and more, a lot of recipes, but really the history part is very much going to be part of it. Now, one thing I wanted to do for last is, first of all, do I have any more questions?
No, it's getting quite late, I think. But
no more questions. I'll say someone's just put on, they've got a recipe for flavor from their late mother-in-law as well. So.
Here we go. So do they want to share it?
Who is it?
It's Patricia, so I'm just going to unmute Patricia if you'd like to.
Yes. So
Patricia, your line's on. If you want to press the unmute button. Yeah,
I can't give it to you.
No.
Sorry. I've got it written down. I can't give it to you just like that, but I could. If Faye wants it, I can let her have it.
Oh, do you know Faye?
Yes, that's how I'm on this evening.
Oh, great. Okay, good.
We volunteer at the Sobel together.
Oh, okay. Faye, I hope you heard that.
Faye Rosen.
Yeah, she's there somewhere. I can't see her.
Yeah, I know. I've seen her name.
Okay, no problem, Patricia. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I would like to share this happy birthday to David this evening.
Oh, thank you.
You can blow your candle if you want.
If I blow from here, will it go out? Absolutely,
give it a go. But make a wish. Voila, magic.
As if by magic. We've had a question from Sue Rifkin, Silvia. What about the artichoke leaves that you cut off?
Unfortunately, you throw them away. Although Italian Jewish cuisine has got a lot of inventive thrift using parts of food that others would throw away, but unfortunately, those leaves, I would just discard them. But they will allow me to just eat the whole artichoke as a whole. So yeah, sorry.
Okay, I think that's it. No more questions.
No? Okay.
No.
So thank you so much for joining. I hope you have a kosher and happy Pesach, and hopefully the last one in a lockdown, and to be able to share the food in person, hopefully next time around. And a really special thanks to David Oliver for coordinating with me throughout this event. So thank you so much for organizing it.
No, it's been a real pleasure. Completely different to what we normally have. So maybe we're looking forward to Rosh Hashanah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
We discussed
definitely different menu, but still quite a few nuts. But yeah, by all means, it will be a pleasure.
Okay. David?
Again, thank you, Silvia, for the presentation, for the historical side as well. Thank you for being in England and not in Italy so that you could share this with us. We look forward to be able to obviously see you in person at some point in the not too distant future. And also thank you for the birthday cake, which at some point, hopefully it won't be stale by the time I get to eat it. Just to, while everybody is still here, that next week I'd just like to inform you that we have a fascinating and remarkable woman. It's the incredible true story of her courage and perseverance. Her name is Judy Feld-Carr. For 28 years, Judy not only knew, but also lived the best kept secret in the Jewish world. The Canadian mother of 6 supported her household and raised a family whilst almost single-handedly rescued more than 3,000 Syrian Jews and bringing them out of Syria to give them homes in Israel and around. She has been awarded she has received many awards, including the Presidential Award of Distinction of the State of Israel, which was created by Shimon Peres in 2012 to recognize outstanding contribution to the Jewish people and to the State of Israel. A fantastic woman. We begin with a film which shows everything that she did, and we will then have questions and answers with her. She's no longer a young person. I believe she's certainly older than me. It will be a fascinating talk. Please do join us next week.
Can I join as well?
Of course you can. You are very welcome to join us every week, but you have to bring food.
Okay. It sounds really interesting.
So again, thank you, Silvia, for being with us this evening. It's been our pleasure to have you here this evening. Thank you, everybody who's tuned in and been with us on Wednesday Night Live. And I wish you all well. I wish you a kosher and a wonderful chag. And please God, in the not too distant future, we should all be together to be able to celebrate together. And may we have many smachot in the future, and we should have wonderful times, and we will be together soon. Things are going in the right direction, and we will be there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'm just going to end the live stream. Thank you very much, Silvia. Very entertaining talk. So,
bye. Chag Sameach.
To you all.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Okay, live stream's ended now.
You're very